Okay, how do you feel about your daughter one day reading your book? Would you be embarrassed? Great question. Actually, the primary reason why I wrote the book is for my daughter. Because, let me just give you a little background. I had no intentions of writing a book, and for 2 years, I had publishers pursuing me and asking me to write a book. They wanted to talk to me about writing a book, and I had no intention of doing it. But then people started telling my story for me and not telling it accurately. So I decided that it was time for me to tell my own story. People who didn't know anything about me were writing about me and pretending that they knew who I am and what I care about, and they certainly got it wrong. So that was my, that's what made me decide to write the book. And I wanted my daughter to know, what happened, because at some point she's going to read about it. She'll look at, the newspaper reports, the internet, and I wanted her to have an account from her mother, and I wanted her to know that everything that I've done up to this point has been for her. So I'm going to be proud, the day that she's able to read the book. Thank you for the question. How do you feel about him teaching ethics at Payne College? I guess the him is Jim. Well, I certainly don't think that I would have, selected him to teach that course. I think in order to teach ethics or to be in any leadership position, you have to have, a moral compass, and I don't think that he does. So I certainly would not have appointed him to teach that course. What was your relationship like with your in-laws? Was or is? I don't know the person who asked the question. Well, for those of you, I don't know if have any of you started reading the book yet? Have any of you finished? No, okay. Well, I talk about my relationship a little bit, but what I want people to keep in mind is that, mine wasn't a typical marriage, and when you're in a political marriage, it's very different, than, a couple who's working a 9-to-5 job, because you're constantly on the go, on the campaign, and, I had a decent relationship with my in-laws. I rarely saw them. We saw them, on birthdays or special occasions, because they also worked very hard on the campaign trail and as representatives of Jim during his time in office. And I don't know if this question relates to the past or the present.
Basically, I heard you on Oprah the other day, and it was amazing to me that you had never been to their house.
Well, they're very private people, and whenever I had, conversations with other people, they'd say, well, I've never been to Jim's house, even, friends of his, former co-workers or school friends. Yes, it was odd, but they're just very private, and also they were on the campaign trail, they had full-time jobs. They're hurting also. Thank you for that question. Your roots here in the Portuguese community in Newark. What kind of support do you have from them, and what is your interest in the new government? Great question. Well, the support has been terrific, not only in the Portuguese community, but throughout the state and throughout the country. I've gotten letters from all over the country and a lot of it came from, a lot of the correspondence came from people who are considered straight spouses, and I had never heard the term before until the day after he announced his resignation. but there were 2 million people. I personally think there are a lot more, but there are 2 million people in this country whose marriages end up in divorce because one of the spouses comes out. I was just recently at a cocktail party, and there were about 30 people in the room, and there were 3 of us. Me, another woman, and a gentleman. So I think the numbers are a lot higher, but people don't talk about it. You know. So a lot of people don't discuss it. Before I hired my agent, I met with another agent, and she told me she went through the same experience. She says, to this day, no one in my family knows why I got divorced. So the problem is a lot more common than people want to acknowledge. Someone who works at the publisher, for the publisher, just told me 2 months ago that she's in her, I think, early 30s, and her mother was married a second time, and she didn't know that her mother's first husband had come out, and that's why she had gotten divorced. Her mother never spoke to her about it until she told her about my book, and then she says, well, I have something to tell you. So this book has, certainly is helping a lot of people under those circumstances. I had a woman who came to my first book signing the day the book was released, and she was in tears. She says, I'm so glad you wrote this book. And she was asking me where she could get support because she was just, falling apart. So the support has been, terrific, again, throughout the state and, from all over the country. I'm saying that that's my sister-in-law's name.